We finally got our one more thing announcement. We've been waiting for this for I don't know how many years, at least 4 years for this day to come where Apple finally announces this new headset that they've been working on behind the scenes for ages. And so let's see, is this going to be the game changer that everyone's been hoping that it was going to be? I'm going to, in this video, talk through this keynote announcement of the new Apple headset from a XR UX designer's perspective, and I will give you a non-hyped practical walkthrough, and we'll take a look at the possibility of how this will affect the industry. And I want to acknowledge one thing before we get started, though, on that is the price tag of this thing. In the current industry, in the current economy, everything's going on right now. This seems like a very frivolous to a lot of people because of they're all in survival mode right now. It seems like a very frivolous thing. It's like, why do we care about this really expensive technology when we can barely even keep a roof over our heads or food on our table, and everyone's all excited about this XR headset? Well, I want to acknowledge that. I'm right there with you. I'm never going to be able to afford this headset. So why am I looking at it? Why am I talking about it? I'm in the XR industry, and we want to pay attention to what's going on in the industry to see where things are going to be going. And I want to acknowledge there's been a lot of layoffs in the tech industry, and especially in my area, in the UX design area, and in the emerging tech area, even in VR. And a lot of students and a lot of people in my circle are looking for jobs right now. The last thing they want to do is pay $3,500 for a headset. And I want to acknowledge that before we get started. So what can we learn from this without paying $3,500? That's what I'm going to be talking through in the video. And let's get started.
This is a day that's been years in the making, one that I've really been looking forward to. I believe that augmented reality is a profound technology. Blending digital content with the real world can unlock experiences like nothing we've ever seen. So today, I'm excited to announce an entirely new AR platform with a revolutionary new product. And here it is.
Let's back up a little bit to this view of her in the headset. I've seen the rumors, and I saw the early pictures of people with their eyes being visible through this headset. What this is a screen that is projecting digital eyes onto a headset. And the first mock-ups that I saw of this looked really creepy. And I'm not sure even now how I feel about this. I would want to see this in real life, because who knows what they've done digitally to make it look like it's actually a part of her eyes, because it looked like googly eyes in the mock-ups that I saw. So my big thing is I want to see what this looks like in real life. Does this look super weird on a person being able to see digital versions of their eyes, or does it actually look kind of natural? And also, we can already see there's this wire, which means it's not a true standalone headset. And this was one of the rumors, that there's going to be a battery pack that you have to wear around your belt. How many people are going to want to do that? I would not really want to do that myself. It is better than, I guess, having a tethered headset, but we'll see.
Introducing Apple Vision Pro. Vision Pro is a new kind of computer that augments reality by seamlessly blending the real world with the digital world. It's the first Apple product you look through and not at. Vision Pro feels familiar, yet it's entirely new. You can see, hear, and interact with digital content just like it's in your physical space. And you control Vision Pro using the most natural and intuitive tools: your eyes, hands, and voice.
So one thing that I'm seeing immediately is on the current headsets, and what I've seen so far, it's not new. They're just doing it gracefully. Is on the Quest headset, you have inside-out tracking. So you have hand tracking on the Quest headset as well. There are trackers on the front here. But what I'm seeing here is that you don't have to hold your hand up very high to interact with gestures. One of the problems with the current headsets with inside-out tracking is the position of the sensors on the headset make it to where you have to hold your hands out further to interact, which can cause gorilla arm if you're doing it for long periods of time, especially if you have short arms like me, or especially if you have frozen shoulder like me and you can't even move your arm out that far, which makes it harder to use hand tracking currently on a headset. And they've got cameras. It looks like, at least from the image, that they've got cameras on the bottom as well instead of just in the front, which makes it easier to pick up your hands lower down, which is going to definitely help with ergonomics and with Gorilla Arm. If you don't know what Gorilla Arm is, if you've ever watched Minority Report, a very old film, and it had Tom Cruise holding his arms up for hours, interacting with this screen. It looked really cool, but he had to take constant breaks because his arms were getting tired from holding them up for so long. That's called Gorilla Arm because the longer you hold your arms up, the heavier they get, the harder it is to hold them up. So they've at least got the gestures down in a comfortable position, but I can also go on about gestures. I want to see more before I say anything.
With Vision Pro, you're no longer limited by a display. Your surroundings become an infinite canvas. Use your apps anywhere and make them any size you want. Capture photos and videos.
More comments about ergonomics, that you're going to want to learn about ergonomics and how things are comfortably placed in a space. Think about how your computer screens are laid out in your physical space. There's certain things, if you move your head up too much and look around too much, your neck's going to get really tired really quickly. So the fact that they have these screens so huge, and of course this is for the purpose of showing us what's going on with it. Those screens are ginormous, and how much is he going to have to move his neck around to see that? Personally, I wouldn't want to do that. I would want the images to be much smaller for practical work, especially if you're going to be spending a long time in here. Now, the question is, how long can you actually spend in here? Because I can only spend currently an hour maybe in a headset because they're so heavy and my head and face start hurting after I've been in them for too long. From a practical work standpoint, with the size of this headset, there's no strap going over the top to relieve any pressure on the front of the face. I'm questioning how comfortable this is going to be for how long, and also around the ergonomics of the placement of the screens in space. And so far, all I'm seeing are 2D screens slapped into 3D space. We'll see if they do better going forward, but that's all I'm seeing right now. And they've got a keyboard in the digital space instead of using an actual physical keyboard that can be Bluetooth connected to it, which is going to affect typing quite a bit. Typing in VR is no fun. So I'm wondering how seamless that typing is in this headset.
Capture photos and videos and relive your most important memories in an entirely new way. Watch your movies, shows, and sports, and immerse yourself in games on a giant screen surrounded by spatial audio. And connect with people as if you're sharing the same space.
You can already do these things with existing headsets that are only $300 to $500. You can already meet with people. The thing that I'm seeing here that's an issue is that everything so far is a 2D screen slapped into 3D space. And I always get on to my students about just slapping 2D screens into 3D space, because that means you're not maximizing the technology and the platform, taking advantage of the benefits of this technology and platform by just doing that. All you're doing is taking the existing Apple interfaces and slapping them 2D into a 3D space. So far, that's all I've seen. And yeah, you can add an environment around it. That's all I've seen so far. That's already available on existing headsets for much less money. The benefit would, of course, be the integration between all the Apple devices. But right now, that's not enough of a benefit for $3,500. And with current meeting platforms, you can actually, instead of looking at videos of people talking to you, you can actually meet people in avatars in existing VR headsets. So let's see if you can actually do that here as well, or if it's just 2D screen.
These are just some of the ways that Vision Pro blends digital content into the space around us. So in the same way that Mac introduced us to personal computing and iPhone introduced us to mobile computing, Apple Vision Pro will introduce us to spatial computing. This marks the beginning of a
We've had spatial computing for quite a while with existing VR headsets. This is not new.
Journey that will bring a new dimension to powerful personal technology. To tell you about the experience of using Vision Pro, here's Alan.
Apple Vision Pro allows us the freedom to imagine an experience unlike anything we've created before. For the first time, we've designed a fully three-dimensional interface, one magically controlled with just your eyes, hands, and voice. When you first put on Vision Pro, you see your space and everything in it. The home view lives right.
What you're seeing when you put on one of these headsets with pass-through, what this is called is pass-through, you're seeing a camera digital representation of your world. You're not seeing the actual world like if you were wearing glasses and just looking through lenses. A camera is picking up your space and putting it onto screens that are in the headset. That's how it works. And so it's not actual, it's digital. And so there's a risk with that. If there's any kind of issue with the headset, there could be lag. And if you've tried the Quest Pro, you'll see that when you turn your head that there could be some lag when the digital image is catching up, the video is catching up to what you're seeing. So even with the pass-through on, you could still experience lag potentially. That's what's happening with this kind of headset. I was hoping that it would be true AR, where you're just looking through more like glasses with augmented reality or mixed reality, kind of more like the HoloLens, but better field of view. And they haven't mentioned field of view so far either, so we don't know what it actually is going to look like when you put them on, because this is depicting it as if you had full vision with your eyes, which it's most likely not the case, unless that's the explanation for the $3,500 price tag. So there is a little bit of dimension, okay? That's better. There's depth. It's not just fully flat screens. That's good. Still majority flat screens, but hoping improvement here will come as more and more people learn to design on this platform. This is just the basics, and then other people are going to start bringing in more innovation here. This is a basic concept that is currently available in XR. They're just doing it more elegantly, of course, than what's already out there. That is one of the first things that attracted me to VR, was the ability to be able to watch movies or shows in a theater-like setting. But once you get beyond that one possibility, there's so much more possibility to what you can do with XR than this. It's why I've staked my whole career on XR and gotten out of 2D computing, is because I see the potential of this space. And I'm hoping that this will spark more creativity and innovation amongst competitors to bring about, kind of like the iPhone brought about a generation of smartphone users, even though not everyone owned the original iPhone. Smartphones are now ubiquitous, and I'm hoping that this is like the starting point for that. Meta has been trying to do it, but Apple is on the scene now, and hopefully they're going to push that forward more. We will see with time, but at that price tag, it's not going to be this headset that does it, unless everyone just wants to like get in debt to get a headset. Who knows? I don't see that happening though. I hope that doesn't happen. That's a cool feature where you can turn on and off how much pass-through you have of the real world with a dial to say, now I'm switching from mixed reality or augmented reality to full virtual reality. You can do that, the pass-through, switch between pass-through and VR now with the Quest. However, it's a bit tetchy, and you can constantly do it accidentally, which gets frustrating. So I had to turn off the feature that enabled pass-through to go on quickly, because I was constantly accidentally activating it when I was trying to adjust my headset. Because again, the headsets are heavy, and I'm constantly having to adjust them to keep my face comfortable and my head comfortable, because after a certain amount of time, it starts to hurt because they're heavy. The way current headsets work, like the Quest and so forth, although there are many other headsets on the market, HTC Vive Pro, Vive Cosmos, Quest, the Quest Pro, the Quest 3 is coming out soon as well. They use what's called gaze targeting, where you're using your head to move, and it estimates where you're looking by the center of the field of view. Whereas the newer headsets like the Pro, the Quest Pro, and this Vision Pro is using your actual eye tracking, and HoloLens 2 does that as well. So it's much more accurate in knowing where you're looking. I would like to see how many misclicks are going to happen because of that, because the best practices based on Microsoft's HoloLens research is that eye tracking can cause a lot of accidental misclicks, because you're going to have to start focusing and paying attention to where you're looking, because I gaze off into space without knowing what I'm looking at all the time when I'm thinking about something. So at least they're not using the actual eye to select and so forth, they're using a gesture in combination with the eye, which is much better than just using the eye because, again, I gaze off into the distance all the time. We all do without really knowing what we're looking at. And so just having just eyes as you're tracking is going to cause issues. But this will be a little better, but I can still see where it could potentially cause misclicks, but not as much so as with the eyes only. And it's really nice, again, like they have trackers underneath the headset here, which is letting her keep her arm down where she doesn't have to hold it out in front of her like you do right now. Because right now, you have to hold it out pretty far. And again, I have frozen shoulders, so that hurts when I do that. And I have to hold them out pretty far so you can pick up the gestures right now. But since they've added the sensor to the bottom of the headset and not just the front of it, that has solved a major ergonomic issue with headsets. That's a feature I appreciate. So the question is that even if you're fully immersed in the experience, are they going to still be shown in the video or in your view? Because while they were talking about the eyes covered, eyes not covered thing, I was thinking about all of the nefarious things that people could start doing. I mean, they could do that now with the VR headsets now. As this becomes more ubiquitous, this could get worse. Oh, they can't see me right now. Oh, they can see me now. But this is an interesting solution to that. So they know that you can see them. So then my question is, if you're in the middle of an immersive experience and you have family and your family's always around, could this falsely activate that and then break your immersion in whatever it is that you're trying to be immersed in? I can see the potential of that breaking immersion if you're in an immersive experience and someone walks up to you. So I'm wondering, are there any kind of preferences that you can set on what's happening when, or sensitivity maybe, or something? Because you definitely want it for safety reasons, for sure. That's the biggest selling point for this as another piece of technology in the Apple suite is that everything seamlessly works together with all of your Apple products if you've got iCloud. And that is the best thing that I like about using Apple products. And switching between Mac and PC is always painful because it's not seamless when you're using the PC and your headset versus if you were able to use all of that seamless integration with that Apple has. So that's a huge selling point for this. Still not worth that price tag, but it's a huge selling point. Hurting my neck thinking about it. But this is one of the big things that I've always wanted to get to the point that we can have digital screens instead of all of these physical monitors in our space because they take up so much space and they're hard to move and adjust. But with these, you can resize them, you can adjust them. They're not stuck to one size. You can move them around in your space however you want, and you can take them with you if you want because it's all digital, which is one of the things that I've been looking forward to for a long time in computing. And again, you can do that now with current headset with your PC. You can't do it with your Mac. That's the big difference. There's a ton of Mac users out there who don't want a PC. That is one of the things I've been looking forward to for a long time. Again, the headsets currently are too heavy to wear for very long. And I'm also wondering about how because when you wear a headset for a long time, you also get eye strain because think about it. You're putting a screen like 1 to 2 inches away from your eyes and you're staring at that for a period of time. It's going to cause eye strain. And if you're using solid whites, solid blacks, like are they using a solid white or it might be, maybe it's an off-white, hopefully, on their browser background. Solid whites, solid blacks cause eye strain because they're way too harsh on our eyes. That's why whenever you see dark mode or anything like that, it's always an off black. It's not solid black. That's why, because it causes eye strain. Even more so if you're in a VR headset or an AR headset, whatever they're calling this thing, because it's that much closer to your eyes and you're staring at it for a long time. That's a nice feature. I'm wondering if you can hook up a Bluetooth keyboard to this or if you're having to use a digital keyboard. Because it would make sense if you're having to switch your head to different views like that to have a digital keyboard that goes with you. But if it's Bluetooth, you could also just pick it up and move it because the Apple Bluetooth keyboards are not very big. But of course, it depends on your situation. Yeah, that's a really huge deal because Interacting with an interface that you don't have tactile feedback on for a long period of time gets to where it's a little bit more difficult. So actually being able to use tactile inputs for this is really beneficial. And I'm also wondering, since they're doing hand tracking, did they add enough sound? Because whenever you don't have tactile feedback, you need other types of feedback to let you know interactions are happening and working and to feel more like you're interacting with things. Did they add sound? Did they add enough visual feedback and so forth on all these interactions to let you know if you're interacting with a digital thing without tactile or controller haptic feedback, are you getting enough feedback? This is one of the best practices Microsoft put out a long time ago, and they use in their MRTK interfaces with hand tracking. I can see the benefits of this if you're working out in public. If I were wanting to work with just my MacBook anyway, why would I have a headset on? I can see the benefit of it if you need to work on something privately. Then you can bring that screen digitally into your headset. If you're like on a plane, which is a big thing that I never could work on anything when I was on a plane because the person next to you is going to look at your screen. So I never could do work on an airplane. Good benefits of this. And there's also that social indicator, which I have an article and a video about social interactions and social collaboration in XR that I will include the links to all these things in the show notes. There are certain social cues and social things that need to happen to let people know when you're interacting with something digital that they can't see, or whether you're interacting with them or showing them a gesture. And I have videos about that because there's some social awkwardness that can happen when you don't know what somebody's doing with their hands or their eyes or whatever. You can check out that video after this if you want. I'll have all those links to all the things in the show notes. And also, if you disagree with me on anything or if you want to share your own opinion on stuff, let me know in the comments. I do keep track of that and I do watch for that. And I will see it if you share it. It's bigger than a laptop. It takes up more space in your luggage than a flat book. You can do that with a MacBook. I already mentioned this, but yeah, you're just looking at videos of people instead of avatar representations of people. And maybe this is something that's needed socially at first. I'm past that because I've been in this for a long time, but maybe that's the next step that people need to be able to accept this besides avatars, especially if you're in a business environment, because the business, there's some, especially with enterprise, there's this issue that people have, or at least the corporate executives have, with your dress code and your attire and how you look in a business setting. And so they don't want people looking like robots and cats in a business environment, which I personally think kind of makes it boring when you want people to actually look the way they actually look in real life. I know what I look like in real life. If I want to be in XR, I want to look like something else. There are a lot of people out there like that. I can look in the mirror if I want to see what I look like, or I can just do a regular video cam. In XR, there's so much more possibility. Why would you want to be stuck to looking like what you look like in real life? But then there are a lot of people who don't accept that and who want to look exactly the way they look in real life in VR, and that's why a lot of people won't accept it as it is right now. Yeah, maybe this is the needed first step, especially if you're looking at this from a corporate standpoint. A lot of business executives want this kind of look for VR before they'll accept it. It's just not taking advantage of the platform and technology capabilities. You're in 3D, but you've got a bunch of 2D stuff everywhere. This is something that was recently announced with a different technology group. However, their version of it, it is volumetric in the space, not on a 2D frame. So right now, when you're looking at this one, this is really cool. I admit this is really cool. You can have some depth to your videos and your images. However, it's still constrained to a 2D panel, which again isn't taking full advantage of the technology. Now, this is a step forward, but as it is now, there's technology out there now that will let you do this volumetrically in 3D, in space, like in spatial representation now for less money than $3,500. This is, of course, much more beautiful and elegant, but again, it's not taking advantage of that 3D 360 volumetric space. It's on a 2D screen, kind of like a diorama. It probably looks a lot cooler in the headset than it does here. for sure. It probably looks like you're looking through a window or something. But I'm looking forward to when it gets to the place where you can actually see it and you're immersed in it instead of looking at it through a box or a window. Well, it's good that it lets you know when you're recording. That's a big deal, especially with VR and XR. It's a big deal to let people know when you're recording them, because it's much easier for people to know when you're recording them in real life. But when you're in XR, when you're in a headset, it's a lot harder, especially if you're recording other people in XR. Very difficult, and that can be, again, used for nefarious reasons. Unfortunately, it happens all the time. So it's good that they have a way of indicating that they're recording. And I'm also wondering, because of the size of this frame, it is a square. So that makes me wonder, what's the field of view on this thing? If you know about VR recording, especially with the Quest, you'll know that a lot of the time the recordings are one eye, whereas there are two cameras in your headset, two screens in all headsets. All headsets have two screens in them, one for each eye. And whenever you're recording something, it's gonna just take one eye and record that. And that's what you see. So a lot of the recordings that you see of the Quest, unless they've been post-prod edited, they're going to look exactly like this. They're gonna be a square because it's only capturing one screen. That still brings up the question to me, what's the field of view on this thing? This is something you can already do with VR as it is now. This was one of the first things they ever did with VR, letting you watch movies immersed in VR in a setting, whatever setting you want. That was one of the first things they did. This is definitely not new. That brings up the question of motion sickness, because you're in a plane and you're feeling yourself move, but your eyes are covered. You're seeing motion that is contradictory to what you're feeling. So when you're in a car or on an airplane, that's going to bring up a big risk. If your eyes are covered, it's going to bring up a big risk of motion sickness regardless, because what your eyes are seeing don't match what you're feeling. So if you're prone to motion sickness, you're going to have a bigger risk of motion sickness in those cases. I get motion sick when I'm watching a movie, sometimes, depends on what it is, on an airplane with a normal flat screen. Sometimes I have to just turn the thing off and do other stuff because for whatever reason, it makes me sick. That's a benefit that I could see of VR, is being able to watch 3D movies in 3D without having to go to a theater and putting on the glasses. Of course, those glasses are way lighter than these. I can see that as a good benefit. So again, it's on a 2D screen. You can do it now with existing cheaper headsets and be actually fully immersed in that world instead of just the 2D panel. Be sure to know that, get past that awe factor and see this is actually kind of a step back. You can do that now with the PlayStation, with PSVR. It's way lighter than these headsets because it's tethered to the console, so it doesn't have all that extra bulk and weight. It's all in the console, and then you just put a light headset on your head. I'm actually able to wear that way longer than any other VR headset. And I'm assuming the new one's the same. Again, those are things that you can do now, except Disney's got their stamp of approval on it this time, instead of you doing it at your own risk, at the risk of angering the mouse. This part is actually pretty cool. This, again, is available now. They're doing it more elegantly. This is the only example of true spatial computing that I've seen so far in this full presentation. Everything else has been a flat 2D panel so far. High risk of motion sickness in that experience right there. And I can include videos on more about motion sickness in the show notes. That's much cooler. Actually being able to use and take advantage of your 3D space. That's what we want in spatial computing. That's the whole point. This design is a lot like the Quest Pro that you'll see out there now. The strap is just wrapping around the back of your head, and there's the front piece that's on the face. Whenever you have a headset like that, you have to tighten it up, and all the pressure is going to be on your face and on the back of your head. And so if you're wearing that right now, just doing that with my hands makes my face hurt. So imagine wearing that for a long time. People are complaining that with the Quest Pro, that weight starts to hurt after a while. So I've had to buy a custom head strap that has one that goes across the top of your head to take the weight off of your face. Because look at the balance of this thing. Look at how heavy the front is. That's on your face. And so when you don't have any kind of top strap that's taking that weight off, that is going to add a lot of pressure to your face, and that's going to hurt, which means that you're not going to be able to wear this for as long as they're trying to make us think that you can. Until we can get them lighter and thinner, which is what they're working on with the Quest 3, I would still want a top head strap. So we're not there to where it can be like an all-day computing thing. I'm wondering about the interpupillary distance of these lenses. Interpupillary distance really matters to your vision and to eye strain. Is if you wear glasses and you've been to the eye doctor and they measure your pupils for the distance between the two, that's a very important measurement that helps reduce the amount of eye strain that you're dealing with, because your lenses need to be focused on the right area so that your eye can properly see without straining too much. And same thing with the VR headsets is there needs to be a range of distances in here to support more people. It's recommended by VR headset makers that children under the age of 12 do not use VR headsets because eyes are still developing and the interpupillary distance does not go down low enough for children because they're small faces, and it can cause eye strain. And if you're doing it over extended periods of time, it's going to cause eye issues like myopia and so forth, increased risk of that. So it's kind of like the Apple Watch, where you can order a different size interface and a different size strap depending on your size, which is really nice. I'm wondering what sizes they come in. Will they fit the lower 1% of adults? Not that I'm going to buy this because it costs way too much. That's a nice design, that it flexes to your face. I'm wondering how that affects the stability of the headset, because again, it relies on pressure on the face and around your head to be able to make it stay in place without shifting everywhere. I'm wondering the weight of the headset and how all of this works together when you're actually wearing it. So we're going to have color coordinated bands now. You can change your band style like you can with your watch. Okay, so that means starting at $3,500 because you have to buy inserts. Are there room for your actual glasses? I have a video on this as well, about bifocals and progressives. The normal way that they create inserts for headsets, and this is what a lot of the headsets are doing now to try to solve the problem of people that wear eyeglasses, is making room for your eyeglasses while still making this a smaller headset that isn't so bulky and heavy. And right now, the solution that most of the people are coming up with is to create inserts for the headsets. The problem is that it's already $3,500, and I promise you, unless they surprise me in their announcement, that's not included in the price. So $3,500 starting for the headset plus custom inserts. However, the custom inserts are going to be single vision. They're not going to be bifocals or progressives. That means that a very large population is not going to be able to use them, especially when you're dealing with augmented and mixed reality when you need to see the real world. These are most likely single vision, and they're probably going to be a very limited range of prescription strengths. A large number of people's prescription strengths are most likely not going to be covered by this custom insert. So this is reducing the number of people that can actually use the headset effectively, especially for long periods of time already, just by adding custom inserts that you have to use. Can you use them without the inserts? Probably, because there are a lot of people that don't need glasses. But is there room to use this headset without having to buy custom inserts? Can they still wear their glasses? So they say that they have a large range of prescription strengths. We'll see what that huge actually means when we get specs on it. If you're buying this and you're going to share it with your family, and most likely if you wear glasses, other people in your family do, because it is a hereditary thing, $3,500 plus custom inserts for you, plus custom inserts for your family members. That's a lot of money. You can plug it in, use it all day, which means you're tethered to a wall, or you can use it for 2 hours with a battery. You're not going to want to be using it all day. You want to give your eyes a break. With this type of headset, you're looking at a screen that is displaying a digital representation of your world, not the real world. Add on to that the weight of the headset. It's going to be difficult. Now, my guess is that this is going to be lighter than a lot of the headsets out there. Again, we'll see what the weight is compared to other headsets. This is way higher resolution than a lot of headsets out there right now, which is probably one of the reasons the price tag's so high. If you look at older TV screens or old tubes, you will see the pixels on the screen if you look at them closely enough. And when you're in VR, you see the same thing. You'll see pixels depending on the quality of the resolution of the headset. And most of them, you can still see pixels, which causes this kind of a screen door effect that makes it to where text is not as crisp and details on things aren't as crisp because of the pixels, of pixelation. And so that affects the best practices because you have to adjust how you create your text, how you create your images, how you create all of your details in things, how far back you have to set text so that you can read it without getting eye strain, whereas they have created a much higher resolution screen. So my question is, how does this affect the best practices for text use, font sizes, font weights, types of fonts, distance from the eyes, and so forth? How does this affect that? Because it is a much, much higher resolution screen. This is something that I don't think is available on other headsets, this spatial audio feature. You can let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. These downward cameras are what I was looking at, as talking about earlier. This is what makes it possible for you to keep your hands and arms in an ergonomic, comfortable position instead of having to hold them out in front of you to interact with things. So it's going to be you're going to be able to use it for longer periods of times from that standpoint. Question is eye strain and head comfort. So they mentioned that it tracks your eyes and where your eyes are looking and says that wherever you look, you see high definition experience. So my question is field of view as much of a thing in this headset if it's tracking your eyes and then using that to depict where things are being displayed? That's an interesting question. I'm looking forward to the reviews of people who've actually been able to put their hands on this. That's what I was mentioning earlier, because since it's displaying the world on a screen, it's not the actual world, it's a digital representation of the world. It can cause lag, but they're saying here that their chip is going to reduce the amount of lag. Is this actually going to feel more lifelike? A lenticular lens. Wow. Okay. If y'all don't know what lenticular lenses are, I'll try to find a resource about that. But it's an old technology that you don't see a lot outside of museums and such. But it ensures that regardless of what perspective you're looking at something, you can see it in your perspective. It's pretty interesting. This is where we start getting into Uncanny Valley, and I'm wondering what the quality of this is and how people are going to receive it in real life, people that are actually using this, because now you're looking at this is the debate between avatars versus visual representations of yourself that actually look like you. The benefit of avatars is that you don't get into Uncanny Valley territory. Whereas if you're scanning someone and giving a digital representation of them in 3D, there's going to be something that's off. There's always going to be something that's off, regardless. And subconsciously, that makes us uncomfortable. My question is, how are people going to receive this? That's always been my doubt about realistic representations of you in VR. Unless you can get it actually lifelike and actually in real time without any lag or any weirdness going on with the representation, then you're better off with an avatar, because it's going to feel off and it's going to be awkward and weird unless we can get used to it. So that's a big question. But again, it's on a 2D screen, so it looks like you're looking through a window, I guess. Obviated rendering is a digital way of getting your eyes to focus where you need them to focus, and I'll try to give you some resources on that as well. When you look at something, when you focus on something, That thing is the most clear thing in your vision if you have healthy vision, and everything else blurs the further in the periphery it goes. Foveated rendering is a way of digitally simulating that, which is one of the ways that helps reduce eye strain in these digital headsets. And now they've got this pipeline that is dynamically foveated rendering that's going to help reduce eye strain and help increase focus and clarity and depth of field in the headset. And that's also something that's new to this headset is usually with VR apps, the way it is right now, you can only run one at a time. Unless somebody knows of something different, let me know in the comments. For the most part, you can only run one app at a time, unless you're running a desktop application that lets you view your desktop on multiple screens in VR. Then you're viewing the desktop apps, not VR app. This is basically that, only it's computing it in the headset instead of on the PC. The innovation is not so much in the actual user experience as it is in the technology that's available here, in my opinion. It looks like they've studied existing headsets and they've made improvements to it. And they've got an easier way of switching between pass-through and VR full immersion with that dial instead of the awkward interaction that you have with the Quest right now that I had to turn off because it kept accidentally activating pass-through. So there's some good improvements in innovation here, especially with the dynamic foveated rendering and the sensors that are underneath the headset, not just in front of it and so forth, and the eye tracking. This is going to be more of a industry example, and I don't see this as being massively adopted, kind of like the original iPhone did with the smartphone industry. And it will, once the form factor gets smaller and more comfortable, it will become more ubiquitous than it is right now. I don't think that it's going to become ubiquitous within the next year or two, especially not with this first iteration because nobody can afford this thing. But at some point, it will get to the point where it will be affordable, or competition will get out there with something that's more affordable. It's way too expensive. It's not fully taking advantage of the 3D space, at least from what I can tell. And a lot of people who are already naysayers of the technology are going to continue. This isn't going to change their minds, in my opinion. I've already talked to some, and they are still naysayers now, even more so because of what they've seen here, especially with that price tag. And the appearance of this is not something that a lot of people want to wear. It's not there yet. It's getting there. It's getting a lot better. Getting a lot better, a lot faster than it was. We will see how this affects the industry. I can't tell you how it's going to affect the industry. Time will tell. I'm hoping it will jumpstart further innovation, more affordable innovation. Finally, this is spatial computing, 3D, in space. Of course, this is already existing in all of the other VR headsets on all the other platforms, but this is a better example of what spatial computing should be like. Is you can actually see 3D objects in your actual world. And this is where I'm hoping that the innovation will come from just like it did with the iPhone. It didn't come from Apple itself. Apple set up a platform that then enabled people to be able to bring about the innovation that was truly innovative and enabled this to become a ubiquitous platform, the smartphones. I'm hoping the same thing will happen with the headsets as well. This is already a use case that's already happening in enterprise with VR now. So these are not new concepts at all. Apple is just doing a good job of promoting and marketing this stuff to the community so that they get a better understanding of this. You can already do this stuff in VR now with much cheaper headsets. Yeah, you can see this too in VR now, much cheaper. This, I'm wanting to be able to get a chance to take a look at this software. There is a version called Reality Composer that you can already get on your iPad. It's not the Pro version. This one I'm assuming is only on the actual Mac, because it's going to be a lot more processing intensive than the mobile version. I want to get my hands on this and give this a try to see how does this compare to Unity? What can you do with this versus what do you have to send over to Unity or Unreal? How does this pipeline for production look compared to existing XR creation pipelines?
And because these Unity apps are running natively on Apple Vision Pro, they can sit side by side rendered simultaneously with other Vision OS apps.
This is where the true innovation comes in, because this is not currently possible on current headsets. Being able to have multiple apps open at the same time, multitasking in VR is not something you can do right now. But now we're starting to see it. And they're the first ones to do it. How that feels and how that looks is up to us as the pioneers that are going to be creating this content going forward to figure out how that's going to work seamlessly. And I'm looking forward to seeing Apple's documentation and best practices on that to see how I need to modify all the best practices that I've written on this. Or specifically, it's going to be platform specific, because a lot of Apple's best practices won't carry over to Meta or anything, because they're a different platform, different technology capabilities, different back-end setup, SDKs, things like that, software development kits and so forth. So there's going to be a difference, but I want to see where they influence. This is going to be an influencer. What that looks like, we'll see. But this is where the true innovation is going to come in, is getting the community, getting the Unity creators and the Unreal creators in there to create the true XR experiences that Apple doesn't have on here yet. They're providing the platform and the software and the integration for those of us who are current XR creators to go forth and create this new future. And so that's the exciting part. And hopefully we can experiment and we can learn regardless of whether we have the actual headset. But of course, as I would say to anyone who is a student of mine, there's a difference in a good creator and a great creator. You can be an okay creator if you don't have a headset. You can be an okay creator, probably especially with Apple's best practices. But if you want to be a truly great creator, you have to put on a headset. You cannot create for XR without a headset. You have to put on a headset. So I don't know how far you can go actually, unless you actually have an Apple headset. But you can at least learn probably the building blocks, learning Unity, learning Reality, Composer Pro, learn those tools. And then once you can finally afford a headset or get a hold of a headset in the future, once they get cheaper, then you can go forth with that. But just learning Unity is going to give you a huge head start in whatever, because you can create now on all of the other headsets with Unity or Unreal now. I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think the Quest Pro has this. They might. Apple has something here that's definitely not available on the other Quest headsets, because the other Quest headsets don't have eye tracking. My question is, again, regarding people who wear glasses. First of all, can people who wear glasses wear this headset? And if they do wear glasses, if they can wear glasses with this headset, regardless of the inserts, because those cost more money. If I was able to wear my eyeglasses in this headset, would optic ID scanning work, or would I have to take off my glasses to do it?
Separate background process, so apps and websites can't see where you are looking. Only when you tap your fingers do results get communicated, just like a mouse click or tap on other Apple devices. And camera data is processed at the system level, so individual apps don't need to see your surroundings. You can enjoy the experiences in Vision Pro knowing our world-class security.
That was one of the big questions about eye tracking in the Quest Pro. People were wondering, okay, do I want them to know where I'm looking? Because they're probably going to track that. And there's this level of distrust regardless of what promises are made. So Apple is saying the same thing, and where the question is whether or not you trust them as well. But they're saying that they don't track where you're looking. They only track what you click, which they have to do to be able to make the thing work. Do you agree with this or disagree with this? Would you say this? I'm not sure I would say this. I would say it's an influencer, for sure. Maybe it's the most advanced one. The question is, will people use it? It doesn't matter how advanced it is if people aren't going to use it. Again, this has been something that people have been hoping for a long time, is the ability to get rid of their physical screens and use digital ones instead, because you can have as many as you want, as big or small as you want, and you're able to resize them and so forth and move them around wherever you need without being limited to heavy monitors that take up a huge amount of space in actual physical world.
If you purchased a new state-of-the-art TV, surround sound system, powerful computer with multiple high-definition displays, high-end camera, and more, you still would not have come close to what Vision Pro delivers.
And so this is their argument for their price of $3,500. I don't own any of those things. I don't own a high-definition TV. I don't own surround sound system. I don't own these things. I can't afford these things. And a lot of people can't afford these things. So that argument is only for a certain target audience who has a lot of disposable income. And that's not the majority of people. So to say that this would be a mass adoption, unless people are willing to fork over that money, regardless of whether or not they can put a roof over their head, I don't see it happening.
And the Apple Store was built for moments like this. You will be able to engage with our team to...
That's a good point. So here is how you can test, kind of, okay? You can go to an Apple Store and you can try this thing on and try it for yourself, and that'll give you an idea of what the experiences in here are going to be like. And that's actually what I did when I first started in VR, because I couldn't afford a headset, or I didn't want to pay for it because I wasn't convinced that I was going to do it. So I didn't pay for one at first. I didn't fork over the money, especially since I had a Mac and I didn't want to pay for a PC, a high-end gaming PC plus headset and all that. So I didn't. So I went to stores that had headsets that I could try, and I tried them in the stores. And then when they were available at work, I tried them at work. And I did a lot of my learning and stuff from that standpoint instead of spending a ton of money on a headset. And this is your opportunity, once they're available in stores, to go try it in the store to see what it's actually like. And then you can go learn Unity, learn Reality, Composer Pro, and that pipeline for creating things for this headset. And then some point in the future, when the price of these things goes down and they become more affordable, you're ready to go. That's your opportunity here.
Learn more
That's what I
about
did.
this new platform, get a demo, and personalize your fit for Vision Pro.
That is it for this walkthrough of this new Apple headset. I hope you enjoyed it. I will include all the links in the show notes. Share your comments. What did you think about this? Do you agree with what I've said? Do you disagree with what I've said? I do check the comments. I will pay attention to them and respond. You can also click on the screen right now to learn more about the UX Best Practice for XR, as I have created them so far for existing headsets. And we will again see how Apple changes this in the future. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.